Hello, we're outside because it's nice to touch grass. Go touch grass today if you haven't done it yet. That doesn't count, but that is the grass. So we're here to talk about Doctor Who, episode number 3 of this season, season number 1, or series 14, series 13? What series number are we on? A late one. This episode was titled Boom, and this is where I'm starting to reassess some of my thoughts, some of my feelings here. This, I think, has been my least favorite episode so far, even though I feel like it started off really promisingly. So, good, the bugs are away. There's also bugs outside. Did you guys know about this? With this episode, the stuff that I was kind of really hopeful for is I like the whole idea of the Doctor standing on a mine and then he has to figure out, like, what do I do about this? Like, how do I get out of this situation? And I thought they built up the stakes for that really, really, really well. But the thing that I didn't like about this was that it does feel like each adventure, and someone was saying this before in the comments, and I was kind of like, I disagree. I think it's good to build up these stakes and, like, let's have the Doctor have these impossible situations. And he can get emotional because it's impossible. It's like a situation that he hasn't encountered before. But in this one, I was like, okay, so it's another situation where the Doctor's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do here. And he's emotional, and understandably, you know, you're on a landmine, so I get it. But at the same time, I was just like, I'm kind of starting to feel like this is becoming old hat. So I'm hoping that next episode we're going to get a shift, because this one, it did feel like we had a lot of that. Even though I do feel like the stakes were earned, it just feels, because it's coming after 2 episodes where we were dealing with foes that were like, oh, I've never dealt with this before. I mean, clearly this is at least something the Doctor had dealt with, but it was just a tough situation to get out of. And I just wanted to feel like, you know, not the world is always at stake. I don't know. I don't know how we do that when it's Doctor Who. The world is always at stake. So maybe that's also just me picking up some of the pattern after so long of watching the show. The other thing that I wasn't as big of a fan of here was that, so I did like the scenario of this episode, the idea that we're on an alien world, you step on this super advanced landmine, and now we have to figure out how do we get out of this situation. Meanwhile, there's a war going on the planet, and we're also kind of uncovering the mystery of sort of what's happening behind that war, which is all super interesting. But the way that we solve the problem just feels a little too neat. So it ends up kind of becoming love is the answer, which, I gotta be real with you, I usually love that message. Love is the answer. Yes, okay, all right. However, it felt a little too easy, because the Doctor basically says to an AI, which was created after a man who's fighting in the war basically gets taken out by their ambulances, which are there to mitigate costs kind of to the war. So because this guy's going to be out for 4 weeks, they're like, look, rather than let you heal and all that good stuff, we're just going to nerf you, so you're done. So he gets tubed, he gets turned into a tube, and then he becomes an AI. See, all of this sounds great. Like, when I talk about this, I'm like, this sounds so cool. But the way that the Doctor solves the problem is by talking to the AI and basically getting the AI to do a bunch of research, because the Doctor has surmised that there is no actual war on this planet, and that the corporation that they use to fuel the war, they're all about big business. So they basically created a war that doesn't exist, and there is actually no enemies on the planet. And the Doctor also kind of knows this because he's familiar with the planet and the fact that it's not, you know, usually inhabited. It's a very, like, there's not a lot of people on it. So he's like, I don't understand how there'd be a war here. Like, who would be fighting that? So we have that revelation. So all of that, how we get there, does make sense. But the fact of saying to an AI, now just take over a corporation, dad to dad, take over a corporation, you know, for your daughter who's still alive. It just seems a little silly, because I'm just like, would an AI have that power? I don't know. And also, if they did, how come this hasn't happened before? Why is it now with the power of love that we're able to do this? So it just felt a little too simple, a little too neat. And I wanted it to be, especially for the mystery they were building up, I guess I just wanted it to be a little bit smarter, or a little bit more like this leads to this leads to this, as opposed to just one big gesture. So the dad is able to do it. His AI is able to infect the program. And the other thing that's happening in this episode is Ruby's life also ends up being at risk. She basically is on her deathbed while this is all going on. So there's also that added stake. And then also when we get out of it, Ruby's just kind of like, oh, what happened? Oh, okay. I'm like, you almost died. Are we not going to talk about that? I guess we're going to talk about that on the Tardis after. Because the doctor was also like, look, you getting close to hand me something as a counterweight, the tube that is the dead man, you getting close to hand me that tube, we're going to have a talk about this after, because I'm not happy about you risking your life here when you could just toss it to me and I'll catch it. And then after, they're all just like, well, we survived this, ha ha ha, la 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 la. I was like, okay, well, all right. Although at the end, I will say they did have some good lines, like snow isn't snow until it's falling. And I was just like, dang, that is a good line. Also with the context of Ruby, obviously there's more snow that falls, all of that's happening. And I gotta say, the Susan Twist stuff is fascinating. Someone brought this up in my previous video and was asking what I thought about that. And I will say, I have theories, but this episode really was interesting for Susan Twist because she is the woman that we see in the ambulance. She's the ambulance's, I guess, AI form, and she is like right there, and both Ruby and the doctor look at her in this episode. So this is the first episode where the doctor's actually looking at her and not like looking away or doing something else when she's there on screen, and he didn't recognize her. So that's interesting. I do think, for me, some of the most compelling theories is that she's somehow tied to Ruby's mom, or is Ruby's mom, or who we haven't seen the face of, or she is maybe a new version of the Master and maybe is Missy. Now I know Russell T Davies said we're not going to do the Master, that's not a thing, but he didn't say he wasn't going to do Missy. So I'm wondering if that's where we're going back to, which I would love because I love Missy. So I would love to see a new reincarnation of Missy if that's what we're going to do. I don't know. Some people think that she could be tied to the Master, but we'll have to wait and see. There are other amazing theories, but we'll see how it progresses. Maybe the tech one. Maybe she is related to some sort of evil technological company because she was an AI for a technological device here. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on this episode. I think overall I would give it a 6 out of 10. Just some things were just a little too convenient, although I do like the premise of it, and I do still really like everyone that's in it. It's just a little bit too much. Hopefully next episode Doctor is a little bit more in his element. I don't know, but also I think he's going to be not really around because it looks like Millie as Ruby is going to be off kind of running away from a woman for most of the episode without the Doctor. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe he's busy solving that problem and he's like, I don't know what to do. Be right back. We'll see. All right, friends, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay nerdy. Bye!